Hello and welcome to episode 271 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. We got a great show planned up for you tonight. We so many different things that have been going on. I mean, a lot of quarterbacks blew up. Today was the day of the tight end. Everything that we thought we knew just throws up in our face in week 8. Snoog and I are here to break everything down, help you out with any kind of sit starts you guys have going into the rest of the weekend, and, dynasty questions going forward. But Snoog, this has been a crazy week, right? We get into week 8. You see, everything that we thought we knew. Some of it popped off, some of it didn't. Some of the guys we've been saying, the Joe Mixons, the Jalen Hurts, a lot of the sleepers that I was calling this week, from Bo Nix to Cedric Tillman. I mean, a lot of things really popped off in a good way, and we're really starting to see which teams in Dynasty and in Redraft are contenders and which teams are really pretenders that were just, finding their way the whole way.
Yeah, it was a crazy week, honestly. It was the week of the mystery players. It was one of those weeks where you get like all the rando bench players and wide receiver fours and waiver players putting up 20 bombs and scoring. I mean, Leaf Raymond, Cedric Tillman, the list goes on of all these guys that were scoring this week that weren't big name guys. And then you saw like Saquon Barkley, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, a lot of these superstar players not getting the end zone. So that happens sometimes. It was one of those funky weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a couple 1-seed teams that are going to get their ship sunken because Demarcus Robinson put up 2 touchdowns. Cade Otton dropped 40, and Cedric Tillman dropped 20 plus with 2 touchdowns. So that happens. Just move forward. It's a weird week, but it was really good for a lot of our teams, Dad, because we were pounding that drum for those veteran running backs: Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry. All these guys, Saquon Barkley, like these guys are absolutely performing at a high level. I mean, Kamara just dropped 18 plus. I mean, a lot of these guys are performing. If you listen to Smash Accept all along the process during the offseason, you'd be in good hands right now. You'd probably be either a first or second seed team right now.
Yeah, and we're going to get into those like big time vets that have been producing. You hit the nail on the head. Like, I just put out a release of 5 sleepers for week 8. It was Bo Nix. He finished as number 2 overall in all scoring. It was Cade Otton, who finished number 4 in all of scoring. Cedric Tillman, who finished number 5. So these 3 guys just absolutely balled out. The other name that really needs to be in that mix out of those guys that scored top 5 this week was Ladd McConkey. So there's a lot to really kind of decipher here in between. Let's start with Bo Nix, because Bo Nix has been absolutely fun. I mean, right now, if you look at him right now, he's been playing the last 2 weeks. He's finished as a top 8 quarterback. Now he goes out, he puts up 4 touchdowns this week. Again, whoever plays Jacksonville, whoever plays Carolina, go out there and roll out those quarterbacks, roll that out there. Everybody's messaging how awesome the Commanders finish was. Make sure you guys check that out. Jaden Daniels just made an incredible play. But let's talk about Bo Nix right now. Are you willing to pay a late first for Bo Nix at this stage in the game yet? I've been saying I've been doing it for weeks, and I think that ship has sailed. I think you're looking more like 108, 109. I don't think you're going to get him 10 through 12.
I was never a big fan of him. I always liked him more than Penix. He was always my QB5 in this class behind the big 4 or the big 3, JJ McCarthy, but Bo Nix is a guy that guy's tough as nails. Like, he plays with a ton of heart. He absolutely plays his heart out. And he's a guy that takes hits. He can run. He has a ton of rushing upside. And he's with Sean Payton. That Broncos team is so bad on paper. If you just look at who they have on that roster, they play great defense, and then it's the Bo Nix show. And honestly, that Sean Payton Bo Nix pairing, when they start to get weapons, when they start to make things
that's
happen,
the thing, right?
It's gonna
so
be,
right now
they're really good, man. Like, they're gonna start to figure that out. And yeah, I would pay a late first for him at this point.
He's my biggest buy. I mean, you got week 5, he was QB8, week 6, QB9, week 7, QB18. This week, QB2 against Carolina. He was QB15 coming into the week, and you hit it like we're all saying, and Drake May was phenomenal his first 2 weeks, and everybody's putting him up on a pedestal, which he is more talented than Bo Nix. But no one's giving him the same thing of, oh, well, Drake May's good. Wait till he gets weapons. Wait till Bo Nix gets weapons as well. Like, Drake May was our guy that we hit on months ago. Bo Nix is the guy that I've been hitting on lately, where it's like, dude, you got to buy low on Bo Nix. And there's so many guys struggling at that quarterback position. He is a great redraft fix in there as well. He's someone that I think you could really try to flip around. Kevin from YouTube says, Anthony Richardson down bad. Dynasty thoughts on buying or selling. This one, Snoog, is very difficult, right? If I asked you today, do you want Bo Nix or Anthony Richardson? What are you going to say? I want Bo Nix, and it sucks.
Give me Bo Nix. Anthony Richardson
It's bad.
sucks, dude.
Like,
He
how do you go
sucks.
from putting up 40 burgers last year in 3 out of your 5 games, and then this year, week 1, fantastic. And it's like, okay, maybe we make an excuse for the injury, but it was horrendous. I mean, this is really hard to watch. And at this point, like, what can you get for Anthony Richardson? You know, like that's really what the question is. People are asking, you know, this week he's going to finish his QB 20 before we get our next slate of games there. 10 for 32, 175 and a touchdown. That touchdown was someone literally just fell down because Downs was so wide open. 6 carries, 45 yards, 36 of them, I believe, were on 1 carry, or 26. So it's like, what is going on? Is Steichen not, you know, calling the plays? Last week, you look at him, 14 carries for 56 yards, 10 for 24. I mean, the completion percentage right now, Snoog, is horrendous. It's 30%. You know, like, we're almost at a point where by week 10, they might go back to Flacco if we keep seeing this. And I hate to even say this, but I mean, like Kevin says, he just keeps digressing. By Tuesday on, are you going to be able to get him a first? I think you're still going to be able to get a first, but I think we have trades like this from Theo Darling where he traded Richardson and Dell Burrow yesterday. That's a huge trade. You get out ahead of it. I think this is your last opportunity to get out ahead of it. I think if you were rebuilding, you sure take a shot at it. You know, if you're going to trade like Kirk Cousins straight up, if you're going to trade a guy that's, you know, someone wants to contend, I think that's a trade you can make because Kirk Cousins, we wish Kirk Cousins honestly played the Bucks every week because he's got 8 touchdowns against them and very mediocre the rest of the way. But it's just been a situation, Snoog, where Richardson was moved all the way up to QB5 by some, QB6. Now it's like, man, you really got to start to wonder, where does that value die? I keep saying every week, I'm like, yeah, you're going to see a bounce back. Right now, I have him as my QB 15, but I don't think I can keep him above Jared Goff. I don't think I can keep him above Baker Mayfield anymore.
Nope.
Tua, Trevor, I think you could say in that area, but like, I'm looking at right now, Purdy's my 14. I think Goff's my 15 now. I think Baker's 16. And I think Anthony Richardson, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua Tagovailoa are in the same tier. And I think because they're the last guys. Because once you get out of that, then it's Cousins, Darnold, Stafford. Yeah. They're all old. So like he's moved into that, what I call that no man's zone that I don't want to be in, right? Like, I don't want anybody outside the top 12. And if I do, I'm moving all the way down. Give me Matthew Stafford for peanuts. I mean, that's where you're at, right? So like, if I came to you today, you're a contender. Anthony Richardson or Matthew Stafford and a second?
I'd take Richardson, I think. I would take the
right, like
Richardson.
Where's the line for you then?
I'm definitely taking like the Goffs, the Tuas, the Trevor. He's right there with those guys. He's in the same tier as them. Goff's above.
That's what I said. So, I'm just moved Goff there, but I mean, he's the same risk as Tua, right? Tua might never play again after he gets injured the next time, you know. And then you got, I think Nix is arguably above him, and Trevor Lawrence has just been bad for years.
Trevor Lawrence just needs a coaching staff and an offensive scheme. I think he's a guy that is going to have a later career arc bloom than the early career arc bloom for him, because he's a good football player. I mean, like he can do it, but I watched every single snap of that Texans-Colts game today. I always do, and I will give it to Anthony Richardson. His receivers did drop, and the Texans DBs made a ton of amazing PBUs and plays on the ball that took a ton of yards and a ton of big plays away from Anthony Richardson. But he missed like at least 6 or 7 passes with over like past 10 to 15 yards downfield that he could have and should have put on the money and made. And I don't think it's a Steichen issue. I think it's an Anthony Richardson issue because the plays are working, the schemes are working. That Josh Downs touchdown, dude, you can't get any more open.
And he underthrew him. He underthrew him.
Yeah, and they are making it so easy for Anthony Richardson, and he still sucks. Yeah, like Adonai Mitchell should have had like 3 touchdowns. Like he's just not an NFL QB right now. He can be one. He's still 21 years old, He's a great athlete, but when it comes to putting some damn touch on that football, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from standing 10 feet away from it right now.
It's like Austin Powers 3. Someone stole his mojo. He's got to go back and get it. You know what I mean? Like, he is week 1. He was the QB4, 212 for 2 touchdowns, ran for 56 yards and another touchdown. He has not ran for a touchdown since week 2. 17 for 34, week 3, 10 for, and then he got hurt week 4, 10 for 20 in week 3 for 167. And it's like, it's just progressively gotten worse to a point where, you know, he's got a tough schedule. After Minnesota this week, he's going to go Buffalo, Jets, Lions, Patriots, Denver, Tennessee. That's just horrible. Like, that's about as bad as it gets. And watch, that's when he'll turn it around, right? It'll make no sense and he'll just ball out, you know, and that's the interesting part about Anthony Richardson is it's flies in the face of reason. Our guy Connor Armheim, again, guys, he's joined the Patreon Discord. Guys are blowing up in there. This is one this morning. I answered 100+ start sit questions. A lot of you guys on Twitter are like, Dad, you didn't get to my question. I'm trying. I am trying. The only way to get that for sure is in that Discord. Get yourself in there. Connor's in there. He says, hey, boys, real quick question. I get Jordan Love, give Goff, Ayuk, and Mason. 10-team, 2 quarterback. I'm a heavy contender. Would you make my QBs Hurts and Love planning for the rest of the season? Now, Love did get hurt.
Yeah,
I want to see what has to happen there.
I heard that LaFleur said that it's pretty not serious, but it's definitely something that they got to really focus in on, take the precautions and see what's up, because it seemed like pretty serious, like he's going to miss a few games at least.
Yeah.
So,
and this is a
playoff
no
joke,
team,
especially when you're a gunslinger. Like, that's your base right there. Like, you're swinging your hips, you're following through that, like that torque motion. That's like, that hurts, man. Like, pulling your groin or whatever the injury is and trying to throw consistently, especially a guy that throws off his back foot and all these fancy throws that doesn't set his feet. He's not going to have much base power there. So could see Malik Willis for a game or 2 or 3 coming up. And that's a guy he's a guy that we've been stashing, right? That we can just have. And he's a QB2 with upside in an offense.
Exactly.
Another coach that makes everything easy. Like, the scheme is perfect. Everyone's always open. Just another option. And you highlighted that of owning these guys, the Joe Flacco's, the Malik Willis's. And we're probably going to see Joe Flacco here shortly starting for the Colts again. And he's going to be a guy, top 15 start rest of the season, that just absolutely gunslings the heck out of it in an easy offense with a coach that makes everything easy. So sometimes it's just easy like that, and make sure you stash handcuff QBs.
Yeah, and Connor, I'm making that trade. I mean, back to that trade, he's going to give Goff, Ayuk, and Mason. Let's be honest. I mean, Ayuk is – a lot of people are saying, Dad, what do you do with Brandon Ayuk? If you're rebuilding, you go buy Brandon Ayuk. You know, I bought him this past week. I gave up Kincaid and Downs and got Ayuk and another guy that's in that range, you know, like Ayuk in a second. I forget what the exact trade was. I can pull it up later. But you go buy the Chris Godwins, the Brandon Ayuks if you're rebuilding. If you're contending, everybody keeps asking, Snoog, I do just what Connor did right here, and that's what I've been telling guys in the Discord is use him as an asset to tier up, right? You're not going to be able to – your options when you have a Brandon Ayuk is you can trade him straight up for a Stephon Diggs, which – prayers up, man. If Stephon Diggs tore his ACL, I'm just going to start crying, you know, but what we're looking at is you try to use him in a way to, you know, like he did right here. I'm going to give Goff and Ayuk, and I'm going to work my way up to a Jordan Love. I'm going to give Ayuk and, you know, a running back like Moss or something like that. And I'm going to try to get up to A-Chain, or I'm going to try to get up to, which that ship might have sailed at this point, but you're trying to move yourself into those areas. You're trying to use that player to go ahead and tier up. You know what I mean? Kyle's Money says, what's up, good boys? I love it. Started a bunch of Tillman today. I love that. Like, that was the biggest call. 90% of people that asked me, I said Tillman. And some people were asking me, like, you go Tillman or Tyreek Hill. And you're like, okay, we're not going that far. But it was absolutely phenomenal. Speaking of Tyreek Hill, Dolphins are all back. A-Chain's back to a top 5 running back. Tyreek's back to a top 5 wide receiver. Waddle's back to a wide receiver 2 status. And this is what's interesting to me for Dynasty, Snoog, is I love it for right now, but we saw what this offense is without Tua. And it's I know I've been using this terminology a lot lately, but it's a turd sandwich. We don't want any assets. So we talk about that with other players, right? If I don't have my quarterback, if they're not producing points, then that's a situation where it's like, is that player that talented? Does this offense have anything else? So if I have Devon Achane right now, I am, I'm going to try to ride him out, but I'm also going to try to tear up. If I have Tyreek Hill right now, I'm going to try to take this game and I'm going to try to get Garrett Wilson. I'm going to try to add a little bit to get a younger, just as elite type player. Because Snoog, I'm worried. If Tua plays out the rest of the games, great. You got a wide receiver 1 or RB1, a wide receiver 2, and even sprinkle in Jonnu. If he misses any more time, it's bad. I mean, it's really, really bad. We've seen it. They're not even startable. Tyreek outside the top 30 every single week. Achane outside the top 24 every single week. So how do you go about the Dolphins? I'm 1, excited, but 2, I'm like, from my dynasty perspective, what do I do now? Because I have a sell window now.
I'm nervous just in terms of the longevity of the position. In redrafts, I'm definitely just riding it. I'm fine with it. I'm owning Dolphins players. I'm just going to bank on. I mean, I watched a lot of snaps and a lot of the parts of the game today. They were getting that ball out of Tua's hands very quick.
Mm-hmm.
I saw they brought in a lot of 2 tight end sets, just giving him max protection,
right.
giving him time. They were playing it smart with him. I think what they're going to do is really, really lean on Achane and Mostert down this stretch that we're going on and just hit those big, deep play action plays to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And that's really what they're going to do to try to just keep Tua fresh, keep him healthy, keep him from getting touched, but open up the field a ton. Because when you establish the run game, it opens up everything else. We saw that today. Achane looked really great. Achane's always going to be he's like an Alvin Kamara right now for the Dolphins. He is getting.
What would you pay right now? Let's start with Tua. 108.
I pay a late first. If I can look at a first and project it late, I'd pay that one.
Because you almost have to look at Tua Tagovailoa right now as the same as Jared Goff, right? Not even Jared Goff. Jared Goff's safer. Maybe even Kirk Cousins area where you're like, okay, he might have 2 years, but we could see an injury where that would be it. You know what I mean? And that's the tricky part. Tyreek Hill, would you rather have? Are you ready? We'll start out. We'll start out a little bit on the low side. Would you rather have Tyreek Hill or Deebo Samuel?
In Dynasty, give me Tyreek.
Yeah.
Tyreek.
Zay Flowers.
Tyreek.
DJ Moore.
Tyreek.
Chris Olave. Because we had
Tyreek.
Kevin was asking that.
I'd take Tyreek. Tyreek's a difference maker, and
all
none
right,
of these guys are.
Devonta Smith.
That's close. I think I'm taking Smith.
I'm taking Smith there. That's kind of the line.
Everyone's all stuck on that 0.8 game from Devonta Smith last week. He's nasty. He's dropped 15 plus in every game this year, other than that game, and he had 2 20-point games already. If Jalen Hurts throws the damn ball and the Eagles' offense plays good, Smith is a big part of that game. He's not AJ Brown, but he's still.
Can we talk about Jalen Hurts right now? Last 3 games, 9 touchdowns total. I get the tush push in there, but shut up about it. Like the people that do that, he has zero interceptions. He has been fantastic. He's the guy right now. I would trade Stroud straight up for Jalen Hurts in Dynasty and get back into that, because I think I'm back to, it's Josh, it's Lamar, and then it's Jalen, because Jalen is he's QB1 for the week. I believe last several weeks he's been top there. And Stroud right now is one that you and I are like, I'm on board buying right now. But we got to start seeing it. We got to start seeing some points. He's been fantastic. But you look at Jalen the last 3 weeks.
NFL perspective.
30. Oh, yeah.
It's been elite, but it's just
32, 28, and 42. Like, he has been putting up absolute monster fantasy numbers. I think Jalen's back to where he is. I think the interesting part is just trying to figure out, like we talked about with the Dolphins offense, what we're trying to do. And then with this Texans offense, man, if we lose Diggs, Nico Collins, when he comes back, is going to arguably be a top 3 wide receiver. Tank Dell's going to have to step up. But, man, he was like the perfect buy for your contending teams. You know what I mean? He was right there. Mr. Pants is asking that as well. He said, contending teams, what's the best buy right now? And, guys, just so you know, on YouTube, on Twitter, if you guys put those super chats in, we will break down your roster. We will answer whatever you can. I have a boatload of questions here already, trying to just dig through them all. But right now, best contending buys, it's still Mixon. It's still Kamara. Like, those guys were phenomenal this past week. Wide receiver for me, it's actually Mike Evans if you're already up ahead, because you're going to get him back. Because by the time you're seeing what Cade Otton's doing, right? Cade Otton, 8 red zone or 8 catches, 2 touchdowns this week. those would have been Mike Evans red zone looks, but now they're Cade Otton because there's no one else there, and I think you have a couple opportunities there where you're just going to have to, you're going to have to trust the process. Each week, you're going to have to look at things a little bit differently because from the wide receiver position, we don't have a lot of veterans outside of what we did have with Diggs, what we did have with Evans, because we lost Ayuk, we lost Godwin. DeAndre Hopkins is going to start to pick up some, receptions with the Chiefs, but there's a lot of Keenan Allens. Terry McLaurin's still in that buy range.
I think Amari's an amazing buy low right now, and same with Devontae Adams, just because people expected them to just join new teams with brand new playbooks and automatically be elite. I mean, Amari had 1 catch for 3 yards.
1 catch for 3 yards. That's disgusting.
Outstanding.
But yeah, Keenan, 2 catches, 39 yards. Like both of those guys, I thought were, starting to get towards that area where they were going to start being viable again.
Keenan's been junk this year, but I don't even think it's Keenan. Shane Waldron is so bad, man.
He's got to go.
You see how good Roma Dunze is? There's that one route from today. He absolutely toasted his man. Roma Dunze on every single rebuilding team I am buying. Like, absolutely buying.
Yeah.
He is so good, and they just can't that OC is just a joke. He can't even figure out how to get the ball into the hands of one of his best players. Like, if you can't do that, you're not an OC.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. And I think that's the tricky part is trying to look at those things. Los says, hey, what's up, guys? Currently rebuilding and wondering what I should do with Josh Downs, David Njoku, Cade Otton. Josh Downs, you're selling. Like, honestly, this is just this offense. If it's Joe Flacco, it's great. This week we got a opportunity where you can sell on Josh Downs. Cade Otton, I'm buying. This has been 3 straight weeks of top 8 plays, and this week he's going to be the tight end 1 no matter what. I think you just have a great opportunity here where it's a guy not quite as talented as, say, Trey McBride, but he's getting that opportunity with some injuries. And David Njoku is a top 3 tight end the rest of the season. Jameis Winston is making guys viable again. Njoku has been top 5 both of the weeks that he's played. I bought him in multiple leagues today before the week started for a second plus. I traded a second plus Likely. I traded a second plus Ertz to another guy. I traded a second plus Goddard. I bought him everywhere. And I think you have to keep going and keep buying on guys like David Njoku. And people keep asking, how you feeling about Tillman? This was a guy that we pumped up all week. I would not pay a second for Tillman yet, but I think you could do one of those trades where you trade a Tyler Algier in a third, because there is nothing in this Browns offense right now other than those 2 guys. Elijah Moore and Judy at this point are roster cloggers to me.
Yeah. I think Cedric Tillman, it's really cool to see him balling out because he was a guy that I liked as a prospect. I thought he was very pro-ready at Tennessee. If it wasn't for his injury his senior year, I don't think there would have been much Jalen hype like there was. But it's cool to just see him come in, him and Judy. And, I mean, he's a guy that's like a diamond in the rough type player. And he comes in, he has 2 really good games with Watson and then with Winston. I'm just excited to see that. He's a guy, I mean, I grabbed him off the waivers in a couple leagues. I've been stashing him in a few leagues. Like on my every league I have him in. So it's cool when you see guys like that gain some value. That's something that I'm really looking forward to. But Njoku, like, he's probably the only real big takeaway from this Browns offense. Is just what David Njoku is going to be with Jameis Winston. And Winston, man, it don't matter if you're open, you're covered, you're half covered, you're not supposed to get the ball. If he sees you and wants to throw you the ball, he's throwing it. Like, it don't matter. And that's the fun part about him when you have him as your quarterback throwing your fantasy option. So it's cool to see, and I can't wait to see this Browns offense, one of the worst teams in the NFL, hopefully bounce back just a little bit and be one of the better low-end teams.
I think you're a little low on Tillman because, I mean, you look at, honestly, 36.7% of air yards at this point, 23% target share, 80% route run. I mean, they're using him because there's nothing else there. And Winston seems to be, you're looking at that first read option. That's a huge thing for your offense. So, I mean, I'm not saying I'm going out there and I'm selling the farm, but this is someone I think you could buy for less than a second that could put up some points here for you. I love this. Kevin's like, Winston's going to be going to slang maybe Browns guy. You see his post-game interview where he was dropping some Eminem where, he was saying, hey, you get one opportunity. For Jameis, this is like your 5th opportunity and your last opportunity. But at the same time, I think Jameis, this was against the Ravens. So, 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. Ravens give up 300 yards per game. They give up 2.6 touchdowns per game. So start whoever the Ravens are playing. That's why Lamar's been so good this year for fantasy, Snoog, is the Ravens defense is so bad. He's got to sling it. Derrick Henry's going to get his rushing touchdowns, but Lamar is going to keep doing his things. He's going to keep arguably the quarterback one the rest of the year.
Yep.
Other guys that we got to talk about, Josh Allen had his bounce back. Jalen had his bounce back. Justin Herbert had a solid week, and a lot of people have really sold out on him and Ladd McConkey. The biggest question I'm getting is, a lot of people are putting Ladd McConkey out for dead. But right now, is this the start to the breakout? I mean, you and I had Brian Thomas Jr. ahead of him, which we should have. A lot of people were really trying to push
I had Worthy over him too.
Yeah, but a lot of people were really trying to push it.
Same tier, but he was always my 6.
If they start throwing to him, I mean, he had a fantastic game this week. You look at what McConkey was able to do, and he looked great. So what are we doing with Ladd McConkey at this point? Are we taking the opportunity to sell because he just popped off? What are you doing with your shares? I only have 2. I have 2 of them in rebuild opportunities where what I did in the draft was I traded back and I got multiple assets, and then I took McConkey with where I was at. What are you doing with him at this point?
I'm holding him or trying to tier up. If I can tier up and get like a George Pickens, a T. Higgins, a DK Metcalf, one of those guys, I'd look to do that. If not, I'd probably hold and just see what happens, because he's a guy that's a bit cheaper still. He's a guy that we knew was an elite route runner. We knew he was a good athlete coming out. He got the great bread and butter situation there with Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. The thing that he always really relied on was just volume. Like, he's not a guy that's going to make 60-yard, 50-yard, 40-yard catches consistently downfield. Like, he's going to,
and that's what it is.
Needs that, yeah.
Because every week 1, 7 targets, 14.9 fantasy points. Look at week 4, 7 targets, 17.7. This past week he had 6 targets, 29.1. The weeks where he had 4 targets, he's putting up 26 yards and no touchdowns. So now he's up to 4 touchdowns. You look at what he is. He's going to be a guy that I think you can tier up, but he's never going to be Cooper Kupp. That's what a lot of people wanted to, say he's going to be the next Cooper Kupp. He's going to kind of be in those situations. I'm personally trading him. If I could get a late first, I would do it. It's just kind of reset the clock for next year, because you're going to get Ibukwa in the late first. You're going to get guys like that where it's like, okay, this guy's got a lot higher ceiling than a Ladd McConkey.
Yeah, that's tough. It's cool, too, to see, because if you look at how good this rookie wide receiver class has been, Neighbors and Marv, Neighbors has been outstanding. BTJ has been outstanding. Marv has been really good. People are trying to, hate on Marv. He's looked amazing.
Well, he was great this week,
too. When he gets the ball, he looks amazing. He looks elite. He's winning. He's great. Those 3 guys are locked in great. Odunze was always kind of that more longer-term player. But if you just look at what Worthy and Ladd have been doing, Worthy was a 70-yard touchdown pass last week away from having a ridiculous start to his first 7-8 games. Scored again this week. He's been scoring a ton. He's been getting 12, 13, 15, 18, 20 points, 10 points. He's finally starting to get the ball more and more. Today, I saw him. There was a couple plays that were just great defensive plays. There was one on a crosser. He would have been down on the 1 yard and just got punched out right when he caught it. But he's starting to get utilized more in the passing game, which is good to see. And it's just cool to see a Ladd, of Worthy, these guys really flashing and showing up early. Because usually those type of rookie wideouts are more that weeks 10 to 18, not weeks 1 to 8. So to see rookie wideouts like that perform from week 1 to 8, even Keon Coleman's been starting to look really good. That's what we want to see, and that's what we're seeing, and that's why we always told everybody, and we knew how special this 2024 rookie class was going to be.
Yeah, Mahomes, 38 pass attempts, 2 touchdowns. This is a little bit where we almost see him as a top 12 quarterback. If they have to pass more and you start to get some of these tougher games, we got Buffalo coming up in 2 weeks. There's a game against Houston in week 16. Those are games where Patrick Mahomes is going to have to sling the ball. I think you have an opportunity where you can still buy Patrick Mahomes if he's going to have to bring you into that situation. I think Worthy is going to be a nice little buy. He's someone that on rebuilding teams, I'm taking a crack at him. On contending teams, I'm trying to go a different route there for sure. On contending teams, though, let's get back to what you and I wanted to talk about. I mean, these running backs, Joe Mixon is top 5 rest of the season. Joe Mixon has been unbelievable in this offense, right? He is literally carrying this offense. He's just looked so good. If you had a 26 first and you knew it would be late, would you pay it at this point? You know, I always joke around Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon. We said we were buying them. Still. But the wear and tear is definitely there. But I'm with you. Like, I think you're still looking at them at a 1 to 2 year window. But if you can get this type of production for 2 years, I would not pay a 25 first, but I would pay a 26.
He's played in 4 games. All right, listen to this stat. Against New England, he only had 42% of snaps, and he had 27 points. That was fresh off the ankle sprain. But he's played in 4 games where he was healthy. 26.8, 27.2, 26.4, 23.4. That is absolutely outstanding by Joe Mixon. And I think, especially now if Diggs did tear his ACL and is going to miss significant time, when Nico comes back, Diggs was kind of that underneath weapon for them. I think Dalton Schultz and Mixon take a little bit of a bump there, especially Mixon. He's a guy, he's catching 4 to 5 to 6 passes a game in this offense. I think you're right on with when Derek Carr comes back, and the Saints O-line looked great today, finally. I think that you're looking at for like the best running backs to own right now, it's going to be probably like a mixture of Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley.
Mixon, the 4 games that he's finished, because he left early on the one, RB2, RB4, RB5 with 5 touchdowns, over 100 yards in every single game, with multiple receptions in every single game, only 1 receiving touchdown. But I mean, like, dude, he's just been so good. This is someone that we talk about all the time. But now I'm like, you know what? The heck with it. I'll pay a 26 first. And I balked at it in one of our Smash Leagues. Shout out to Big Fish Dog. He kept trying to get me to pay the 201 because it was his, and I wouldn't do it because there's certain times, Snoog, where if you don't need it, you don't have to buy Joe Mixon right now. Like, I have teams where I have Saquon, I have Bijan, and I have Breece Hall, and it's like, I'm not going to start him, so I'm not going to pay for him right now. Like, a lot of people just buy just to buy. When you have an asset like a Kamara, like a Mixon, like a Henry, you don't need to buy just to buy. If they're going to be in your starting lineup, go ahead. But at this point, it's like you don't need to do that until like week 8, week 9. Kamara, everybody kind of wrote off for dead this week. They're like, man, he had a bad week last week. Now he was back. You know, he had 67 rushing yards, 6 receptions, 55 yards, 11 targets. Derek Carr's coming back
all year. With Shaheed out, it's going to be like that all year. Kamara's going to be a 7 to 9 target guy a game.
Yeah, and that's really the biggest thing is Derek Carr will be back next week. They've already kind of confirmed that that's where he was going to be. Chris Olave had a really nice week. 14 targets, 8 receptions, 107. I was saying this past week in the Discord, guys, go out there and kick the tires and try to buy Chris Olave cheap because there's nothing else to pass to here. It's Kamara, it's Olave. Now that Shaheed's gone, this offense is just going to be tailored around those 2 guys. And I think that's a buy window there because he is super talented. A lot of people were like, oh, he was just propped up because of Ohio State. No, it's just the situation hasn't been ideal there. Speaking of other situations that haven't been ideal, Kyle Wynn says, what would you do with Corum and Adonai Mitchell? Hype was there before the season. I feel I missed my chance on both of them. You paid a second. You're not going to get a second right now. You got to hold them. I mean, you just wait until if Josh Downs goes down and Flacco becomes the starter, Adonai Mitchell's going to put up really nice numbers. Blake Corum, man, it's been like I saw the usage much more like 60-40 at minimum. Now it's like it's 95-5, Kyren, he's still a premium guy to hold. You see some flashes when he gets in there, but this is definitely Kyren Williams offense. I would not actively go out there and try to sell either of them. I would get them tossed into deals though. I mean, I think you can get Blake Corum really cheap. I think you get Adonai Mitchell cheap. They're both going to increase in value. When we do our locks to increase in value, these are some of those guys that you're looking at because they're rebuilding buys. People don't want them. Snoop, so many people, everybody wants Derrick Henry right now, right? Everybody wants Jaden Daniels. And sometimes you got to look at what don't people want, right? I was buying Mark Andrews the last couple of weeks because nobody wanted him, but he's talented.
Yeah.
Now look, he's flashing. He's been back. He's looked really good. Nobody wanted, like that. That's the problem. It's like no one wants certain players. And those are the guys that are the ones that you really got to make your mark. You got to go out there and say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy Andrews because nobody wants him and I believe in the talent. Anthony Richardson could be that guy, where you're like, nobody wants him right now. I'm going to try to get him cheap. But after Mark Andrews had those 2 straight duds, I bought him for a second. I bought him for a pair of seconds. I bought him for a second and Dallas Goedert, like I was saying before. Since he's come back, tight end 18 as he was working back in, tight end 6, tight end 9, tight end 3. He's put up 5+ targets in every single game. He's scored 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. So like Mark Andrews, your buy window there. I mean, I think I got one opportunity where I sold Kincaid for Andrews in a second because Kincaid is frustrating the hell out of me. Like Kincaid is one that just doesn't make sense
today, but
just doesn't. It did, but the yards weren't even there. I mean, you look at Keon Coleman blew up again. Keon Coleman might be here to stay. I'm not like this is back-to-back weeks where we're seeing him really look good. Shakir was in there. I mean, Keon Coleman this past week, last week was wide receiver 15. This week he's wide receiver 14. 7 targets both weeks, 195 yards between the 2 games. He scores a touchdown here. I don't know, man. Like this might be your last opportunity to buy low on Keon Coleman. Whether you like the talent or not, him and Josh are starting to lock it up. You know what I mean? So you're saying Amari. I'm saying I'm buying Keon because Josh Allen's going to have some big games. I mean, he's got Kansas City in week 11. Today. San Francisco. He's got the Rams, the Lions. I mean, these are like shootout type games that Josh Allen is going to throw the ball, throw 3 or 4 touchdowns, and you got multiple assets there to go for.
Yeah, I like that. I think I'm right there with you with buying into Keon, a guy that I wasn't really super high on, particularly as a prospect, but I think he fits exactly what Josh Allen wanted, needs, and plays to his style with having that guy that can win that one-on-one ball, and he's been that guy there. But going back to A.D. Mitchell a little bit, him and Rome Odunze are amazing buy lows on rebuilds and 1-year punts. I think you could literally make an entire highlight tape of Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco just missing Adonai Mitchell on touchdowns and 50+ and 40+ yard plays. I've seen so many plays and snaps of Adonai Mitchell just absolutely toasting DBs, breaking their ankles, looking like an elite route runner. Like he's one of those guys that if you box score watch, you don't think he's good right now.
Right.
But if you've been watching the tape, the film, and you've been watching games, like today, he was cooking Derek Stingley, and I'll openly say that as a guy that loves the Texans. Like I watched so many of the plays and focused in on Adonai Mitchell when they were on offense. He was like seconds away from scoring a big touchdown. It was just slightly too far right, and AD couldn't get his second toe drag there, but it would have been an impressive, crazy, like 40+ yard catch. But he's very, very good, dude. Like he is in any other situation, like if the Pats took him or if some of these other teams took him, I really think he would have been above Vlad McConkey, above Xavier Worthy, and right there, like as the wide receiver 5 in this class for me. But yeah, so
I would really try to get him thrown in on deals because what you can really do with an Adonai Mitchell, right, is you're rebuilding and someone else is contending, and you get into a spot, you're making your trade, and all of a sudden you're like, this is pretty close. If I give you Zach Moss, will you give me Adonai Mitchell? He's not doing anything on your team, and Moss can fill in for you, and I think that really gives you an opportunity, and I think you get that done. But I mean, I want to go back to what we were talking about is like players just underperforming right now just gives you such a opportunity to buy. And I think that's really what we got to try to key in on here is, you get some of these opportunities. You get guys like DJ Moore this week, 5.4 points. We have Drake London, 7.4. Everyone wants to buy on the weeks where they put up 30. And like people in Dynasty don't realize the recency bias. Last week, you probably had to pay the 103 for Drake London. The fact that he scored 7.4 fantasy points when they put up 40+ or 30+ points, you're going to be able to buy him a little bit cheaper than you were last week. It shouldn't work that way, but it does. Same with Jaden Reed. It's like you're going to be able to buy him a little bit more because he put up 7.5. Kenneth Walker put up 8.5 against the Bills, and you're like, oh, shoot. Somebody might panic on that. Amon-Ra St. Brown is not performing the way he should. I think he's a great buy low. He put up 8.7 this week, someone that I think you could really get a lot cheaper than you should be able to. Davante Adams is what I really want to talk about now with that Jets offenses. Davante Adams put up 9.4 this week, nothing flashy. He went out there, and everybody's like, they're going to completely forget about Garrett Wilson. 6 targets, 54 yards. So now in two games with Davante Adams with Rodgers, 15 targets for only 84 yards. Everyone was trying to say it. They're just saying, well, this is going to be his offense, right? Garrett Wilson's going to take that back seat. Garrett Wilson is not that guy. He is not going anywhere. I just bought him. I got him in a second for Puka in a third. I think he's someone that like he's wide receiver 5, right? But we still haven't seen, aside from 5 and 6, we haven't seen those boom games. This week though, 8 targets, 113 yards. Last week, 9 targets, 61 yards. So the target usage is very promising. The touchdowns are going to start to come, but I think you really, this is your last opportunity here. You know, there were no touchdowns this week. If he scores a touchdown this week, he's off the tables in most of your leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, this situation's really driving me crazy because, man, the Jets just look like terrible. And it's holding back Breece Hall. It's holding back Garrett Wilson. They can't put together drives, and that's the issue with them. And it's honestly, I watched a whole breakdown on it. It's not anyone consistently being bad. They're all taking turns, making mistakes that are causing these drives to fall apart. Garrett's been by far the best player on this offense, though. Like, by far. And that catch at the end of the game that they screwed him on was an easy catch. Like, the Jets should have won that game. And as a guy that loves the Patriots, I'm from Boston, that wants the number 1 overall pick, I was friggin' pissed when they didn't review that play, because that would have been another 30-plus yard catch to Garrett Wilson. Would have put him at like 140 receiving yards today. He had another catch that was over 20 yards that got called back for an illegal shift that was not an illegal shift. So it's just little things like that are just holding him back from really hitting his stride. But as far as, like, he had that amazing sideline catch, Dad. I don't know if you saw it, but he literally caught the ball in between a defender's hands and just extended his arms out and toe tapped the sideline. Impressive player. I mean, he's a guy that is going to give you those big weeks with Rodgers, especially. Adams does exactly what we knew he was going to do, and we said to buy low on Garrett as soon as that trade happened, Dad, he is drawing that number 1 corner on the outside, and it's leaving Garrett Wilson against the slot and just in these opportunities against guys that have no business covering him, and you're seeing those results back to back weeks now.
So I love it. This week, we're going to try to bring you as much YouTube content as possible. We're going to try to really crank it out there. We're really encourage you guys to join the Discord right now. I mean, there's been guys that have been sending me messages this week. Like I said, I mean, we shared the one where a guy was saying that he went from 30% to 60% win rate. I mean, some of these guys are just saying, hey, this is the type of community that I always wanted to be a part of. This is what we have going on. We got a message here. Hold on a second. Some of these are just absolutely like, I want to do a show where we literally just cover some of these, because what guys are saying to me is, I can't believe how much work that you and Snoop put into this. I can't believe how much I enjoy being part of this community, because what's going on is people are just talking shop 24/7 to the point where, again, nobody cares what your fantasy team is in your real life. Your girlfriend hates it. Your wife hates it. Your friends actually hate you talking about it. In there, it's like we're all degenerates talking shop to a point where we're just going to talk about Cedric Tillman right now. We're just going to talk about what happens. Every play, everybody's like, yo, you see that? What's going on? You know, like, oh, wow, this guy got hurt. What should I be doing? And they're just talking shop in there all the time. And everyone's like, oh, I don't know, Dad. You know, Snoog and you guys put your content out there. Dude, we're giving you extra stuff in there. We're giving you the rankings. We're giving you the sit starts. We're giving you everything that we possibly can to make sure you're in there. I mean, I know you have. This past week, I know I probably did over 1,000 DMs. Like, it's just been crazy. And some of it is just the guy will be like, what do you think of this player? Some of it'll be, hey, like, this is what's really been cool is guys will be like, Dad, I set my roster the way I think you would, or the way I should, but can you look over this? You know, and today I was looking over some of them, and I'm like, one guy didn't realize he had T. Higgins in there. I'm like, oh, wow, go pick up Cedric Tillman, put T. Higgins on your bench. Ended up winning the game. You know, like little things. $5 a month, is it worth it for 20 cents a day to win your wet matchup for the week? Like, it's crazy, you know, because you have people that are in there trying to help. Snoog, I know you've enjoyed this experience. You know, it's been new for both of us, but at the same time, it's been rewarding, and it's been a ton of work, but it's been worth it.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I'm only putting my dynasty and redraft rankings in the Discord now. I think that's just giving more value to the people that are supporting us. So that's where I'm really trying to be with that. Putting out weekly rankings, running back, quarterback, tight end, wide receiver rankings, just from a redraft and dynasty start perspective in the Discord. Every week I put those out, as well as just trying to update my dynasty rankings. Same things, positional rankings. Try to update them when needed, but trying to just keep those in there, letting those live in there, and helping out everyone in there with start stits, trade rankings, and all that good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's funny. I literally wake up. There's like 40 plus messages in my chat with Snoog section, and there will be people in there answering questions already for me because like everyone in there is just bonding, having fun, talking ball together, and they just want to get in there and talk shop. So you're getting advice from Dad and I, as well as 400 plus other people that care about your fantasy football team. So it's really fun in there for just $5 a month, just to help us support the channel and the time that we put in. It's really fun, and we're building something special here.
Absolutely. And even there's guys, it goes all the way up to $5 to $20 a month. The 20 guys are just like, hey, here's my phone number. Let's talk. You know, like this is what we're going to do. This is what we'll set you up for the week. So, I mean, we're here to help you guys absolutely dominate. What I love to hear is when you guys are winning because of the decisions that we've made. It stings me when I make a decision where I tell you something that you shouldn't do, like buying Anthony Richardson or buying Dalton Kincaid. We're right a lot more than we're wrong. We're going to continue to bring that. This week, we have a lot of great shows. We're going to bring you some locks. We're going to bring you some buys. We're going to bring you some sells. So thanks again for tuning in, guys, and enjoy the process.